Hello. I would like to say to everybody out there who's tuning into this that almost everybody is thinking too small. And that's been the case. Uh, that's been the case for Trump ever since he took office. And I always thought too small. I knew he was going to fix us, but I didn't know that he planned to fix the world. And, um, that's about as ambitious as you can get. And yet, for Trump, the bigger the challenge, the more he loves it. So, despite what others think about him, and who knows what they believe, I'll get into that in a minute. Um, Trump finds things to be pretty easy. So when they came to him and said, we got two big old fat black swans here. One is a global pandemic, and the other is the need to completely shut down the economy. Rather than panicking the way Barack Obama would have done, um, you know, Trump probably went, oh, interesting. So, um, I fully understand not thinking big enough when it comes to Trump. So, what I'd like to leave you with after you watch this video is a sensation of joy, the emotion of joy that everything being done is being done. Everything being done by Trump's enemies is being done. Um, Now, not only was the election theft uh, the biggest crime in American history, the cover up is almost universal. And this is where the Democrats screwed up in multiple ways. This whole plan and the cover up seem designed to fail, and that's because they were by Trump's Judas goats. So let me tell you what the problems are for both the crime and the cover up. So the problems with the crime are the main problem is that none of the voting makes any sense whatsoever. Um, it's when you simply look at all the statistics, this is a clear case of fraud. Um, Joe Biden ended up with the most votes of any presidential candidate in American history, and that's not possible. I mean, that right there is not possible. We have 150 million people voting. Um, I think in California, it was something like 85% of people eligible to vote voted. Now, Biden is leading Trump in the popular vote by what, 5.5 million people, and again, this is simply not possible. The polls showed multiple races that were neck and neck, and then the Democrats won by, you know, 40 points, 50 points, whatever. Um, so this election theft was incredibly crude. There was no finesse to it whatsoever. Uh, you know, Stopping the counting for no reason, finding votes that are 100% for Biden. As CNN is going, you can see the vote count change. Trump loses 400 votes and Biden gains exactly 400 votes, and we see it happen in real time. So this thing is like I said before, it's a cargo cult attempt at stealing an election. And okay, we now know what's going on. It's the vote tabulating machines. We've known about all their problems for a long, long time. And the mail-in ballots. And in Georgia, for example, they made it impossible to compare signatures on absentee ballots. So the claim was always made that absentee ballots are essentially fraud proof. And they are, as long as the laws are followed. But what Georgia did in 2019 was it rewrote the laws so that now it's virtually impossible to verify signatures on absentee ballots. And there's a notion out there that digital fraud is not traceable. That's ridiculous. What the Democrats did was exactly what the Russians did in Venezuela and what the Chinese have done and whatever. So we know how to, we've been preparing for an outside attack using the attack. Okay, the fraud in Venezuela was perpetrated by Russia using the same tabulating machines that we have here. So, I mean, this was really dumb, really, really dumb, because our cybersecurity, our military cybersecurity is ready. Everybody needs to go to this Christina Bobb video where she lays out everything. The reason this is all good is that, okay, Trump caught all of this. So when all of this is exposed, this is the absolute destruction of all his enemies. You know, everyone in the country, the Democrat Party is done. The media is done. The tech giants are done. Punditry is done. They're all done. And the reason it's good that this cover-up is happening is that it implicates everybody. Now, good old 538, they've put out a piece saying that the country was conditioned to accept disinformation. And what 538 is talking about is the truth. According to 538, the truth is disinformation. And see, the huge mistake that the press made at the behest of the Judas goats was to say that everything's perfect. We dismiss all claims of fraud out of hand, and Trump needs to concede, not only concede, but he needs to leave office before January 20th. And they're all saying it. It's universal. Now, this doesn't work on anybody with a functioning brain. And as a matter of fact, when you go outside the realm of the 2020 election, you see that the New York Times is reporting honestly on what's essentially a civil war in the country of Belarus because of a stolen election. And the leader of Belarus, the de facto dictator, stole the election, and he's killing protesters. Now, Belarus has a terrible reputation. It's as much a communist hellhole as Cuba. And the Belarusians shot down a hot air balloon that they knew full well. They knew what it was. They were told this is a hot air balloon that's accidentally gone into your airspace and it can't leave because it's at the mercy of the winds. So it was during a race. So they went out with a helicopter gunship and they shot it down, killing everyone on board. And they did it just to be, just to be horrific totalitarian lunatics. And this is how they operate. Now, the Democrats have no muscle to steal an election. The strong man of Belarus has all the muscle he needs to steal elections. He has, he has the military, he has the internal security, he has the federal police, he has, everybody. And the election was in August, and they're basically having a de facto civil war that's been going on since August. And this is how dictators are overthrown. This is what happened in Romania. This is what happened in Sudan. This is what happened. We had the Arab Spring, but what happened in the Arab Spring in 2011 was that even worse people came along. And my gosh, look who was president during that period. The same guy who's now lecturing Donald Trump on how to be presidential. The ridiculous hologram president. And okay, the frenzy to force us to accept a fraudulent election is deeply silly. If you don't accept this, you're a racist. That doesn't mean anything anymore. It doesn't mean anything. We elected a black president twice. We're not a racist country. And this guy said, racism is the foundation of our country. No, it isn't. You were elected twice, easily. So, okay, the press is fabricating stories just outright, saying that Trump is dropping lawsuits and Trump conceded and all this stuff. So the press can't come back from any of this. And now there's the state recounts don't matter because it was the states that allowed the election fraud to happen. So the Supreme Court is going to have to make some pretty major decisions. And my guess, before Giuliani takes his full case to the Supreme Court, he's going to get his hands on all the evidence that nobody can ignore. So what the Supreme Court is almost certainly going to have to do is they're going to have to say mail-in ballots are they can't be counted because they're too compromised. All elections in every state that use these machines that have problems, those elections are all nullified, and now there must be a hand count. The hand count has to be done under federal observers as well as Republicans. And absentee ballots are going to have to be nullified because all of this, it's just too compromised. So we're going to come down to in-person in-person votes. And we'll see that Trump did get the landslide that I predicted. In the Christina Bobb piece, she points out that Biden almost certainly got almost no votes at all. So the Supreme Court is going to have to, they hate making precedent, but they're going to be presented with evidence that everything is so compromised that essentially in all these I don't know, maybe the whole country, I don't know. Um, Now, the only hard and fast rule, I believe, is January 20th, when the new president is sworn in. If the votes are absolutely compromised in every way, shape, or form, then the deadlines for the electors and all that, um, they 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 simply will not be able to be met. The theft was the biggest thing we ever saw. The cover up was the biggest thing we ever saw. And Trump's remedy will be absolutely cataclysmic. Um, I mean, this is what happens when you do, what is it? Play stupid games, win stupid prizes. Well, they're not going to win a stupid prize. They're going to win their own annihilation. They caused their own annihilation. And, you know, um, it's a good thing because we've accepted this kind of corruption for way too long. Um, and look where it got us. Uh, they're telling us now that truth is disinformation. So um, we're way beyond anything that Orwell ever. Orwell wrote 1984 just as a cautionary tale. It was a literary exercise. Everything written about these horrific dystopian futures, these totalitarian futures, were written as, thought experiments. Nobody ever really believed that it could happen. It has happened. Um, and the reason, I mean, okay, what's so funny about it is that the people who are trying to force all of this on us have no ability to make it actually happen. Um, the Fortune 500 companies are going to step in. So what? Like literally, so what? Um, the mind boggles. And this is what happens when you don't know how anything works. Trump knows how everything works. I remember this press conference where that Fox guy with the silver hair, the one who had a meltdown because, people were saying he was an idiot. Oh, it was the guy who said, "Can you once and for all, just to end everything, just once, can Trump unequivocally condemn white supremacy?" And Kayleigh McEnany said, "Well, he's already done it like 60 times." "Yes, I know, but just one more time." And they didn't do it. And he got hysterical. Okay, and he was trying to be a smart ass with Trump. And he said, "I don't know if you notice," and Trump interrupted him and said, "I notice everything." He's not kidding around. He notices everything. And I just did a video on the deception operation that convinced the Germans that we were going to invade at Calais rather than Normandy, and it mostly worked. Only Rommel wasn't fooled. But see, Rommel in his own way was, just about as smart as Trump. And Rommel unfortunately got involved in a an assassination plot against Hitler that was not well thought out. It's the one that they made the Tom Cruise movie about. And what happened was they had two bombs that von Stauffenberg was going to put in a briefcase and leave next to Hitler. And he only had enough time to activate one of them. They were time bombs. Uh, he let they moved without telling him. They moved the conference from the concrete bunker to a wooden building, so all the blast effect went outward. If it had been inside the concrete bunker, then Hitler would have died. And the conference table was this massive oaken elephant, and one of the people standing next to Hitler bumped into the briefcase, so he moved it around to the other side of the leg, and that big fat elephant leg shielded Hitler. So Hitler lost his pants. There's a famous picture of someone holding up his shredded pants. Um, but he lived, and Rommel was such a hero that they made him commit suicide. He took cyanide, and then the Germans told the public that he'd been killed in an Allied um, strafing attack or something like that. So we we were up against the Abwehr, which is the German military intelligence, and Admiral Canaris, who led the Abwehr, was a brilliant man. And for him to be fooled shows you how hard we worked on fooling the Nazis. Trump is up against buffoons. He's up against Obama level, you know, I can't even think of words insulting enough to describe Obama, who thinks that there's 57 states and that Austrian is a language, and you know, thinks that the word corpsman is pronounced corpseman. This guy is I mean, he's a clown. He has no education. He knows nothing. They're saying that Biden will heal us, and at the same time, they're saying that all of us who supported Trump need to be exterminated. So Biden will heal us through the peace of the graveyard. It's remarkable. But it's funny. It's funny. You know, there's no harm in praying, but it's actually not necessary. Trump's got this, and it's not necessary for you to believe that. Events will unfold regardless of what you believe, and it's going to be better than Christmas. It's going to be better than a century of Christmases all happening at once. Take that to the bank.